Greetings and welcome to the Saco School Board meeting for Wednesday, May 10th. Call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. Let the record reflect that all school board members are present with the exception of School Board Member Archie, who's been excused. I invite you all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. Item 3 on the agenda this evening is to approve the school board meeting minutes dated April 26, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? School Board Member Truman.
I move we approve the school board meeting minutes dated April 26, 2023.
Second.
Second by School Board Member Richard. Any discussion on the meeting minutes? Roll call on the minutes. School Board Member Preble.
Yes.
School Board Member Richard.
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune.
Yes.
School Board Member Gale.
Yes.
School Board Member Truman.
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston.
I have to abstain, Mr. Mayor, because I was not here for that meeting.
Thank you. 5-0 with one abstention. Brings us on to item 4 of the agenda, adjustments to the agenda. There are no adjustments this evening, with the exception we are removing under new business item G, the second reading of policy KF, community use of Saco school facilities. So that is being removed from tonight's agenda. That brings us to item 5, correspondence. There is no correspondence in your packet this evening. That brings us on to item 6, public comment or public session. If there's any member of the public who would like to address the school board, please come forward and be heard. With nobody seeking recognition, moving on from public comment to item 7 of the agenda, Superintendent's report. Superintendent Ray.
All right, good evening, everybody. A few items for tonight. First and foremost, we are celebrating Staff Appreciation Week throughout our districts, and I can't say enough about the quality job that our staff does each and every day. They put in towards our kids, our communities, the families. It's an extremely challenging job and probably has only become more challenging over time. And each and every day they get up, they come in, they put their best foot forward, and we can thank them for all they do for our kids and our community. So thank you, staff, for that. June 16th, as a reminder to the community, be the last day of school, which will be a half day for students and for staff, which is a Friday, unless we have another snow day. But based off the weather that's out there in the last few days, I think the snow's gone by. A couple of other items is that when you click on the Saco City pages and some of the web pages or see parents, I think it's safe to say that our families are enjoying the new playground at Fairfield School. There was a collaboration between Public Works, volunteers, and the school department. I know that Wendy's pretty happy with having a facility out there that's safe, and we're just thankful that everybody was able to come together to support that effort for our kids. Thankfully, the rain has gone away. We did lose our swimming pond that was out there, but it's a nice site. Some events that are going on in our elementary schools is on Friday night at Young School, on the Wild Side night from 5 to 8. There will be many different events going on. I was there last year, and it was a great event. On May 19th, which is a Friday night, we have Playground Palooza, which I'm assuming is a little bit of kind of a grand opening thing and some fun stuff for our kiddos. And then on June 2nd at Burns Schools, we have our family night out. The PTO basket raffle and classroom raffle is a big tradition. And I know our kiddos get really excited about that. So those are 3 important nights for us. And then finally, last night, the City Council took up second reading of the school budget and city budget that was passed. And we will head to budget validation on June 13th, which is the second Tuesday. And that's at Thornton Academy, correct? In the gym is where the election is?
I'll have to check with the clerk,
Okay.
because it's a much smaller
election.
turnout,
Okay.
so, but I think it will be because there won't be any school, if
Right.
I
This is
understand it.
typically a very small election, and I don't believe there's anything on the state ballot for this one.
That's my understanding.
That's all. Thank you.
Any questions for Superintendent Ray? School Board Member Gale?
Not a question, but just a quick comment on the young school playground as well. The drainage improvements there, it's just night and day between what it was 4 months ago and now. And after that huge deluge of rain, the drainage improvements really worked, and we were back out there playing a couple days after that. So thanks to the city council and the school and the landscaper.
Moving on to item 8 on the agenda, and that's the chair's report. Chair Preble?
I don't have anything new to report this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brings us to item 9 of the agenda, and that is staff reports. There are no staff reports to review in the packet. And so that brings us to item 10, the board subcommittee minutes. The Policy and Personnel Committee had a meeting tonight at 5:30. The Finance and Infrastructure Committee has a next meeting on May 24th, 2023 at 4 p.m., and the Curriculum Committee has a meeting on May 22nd, 2023 at 4:30 p.m. Brings us to item 11, old business. There is no old business this evening, so we will proceed to item 12, new business, and item A is a new hire. You all received in the packet a memorandum for new hires. I believe one requires action with 2 others requiring no action. I'll entertain a motion. School Board Member Truman.
I move we approve the nomination of Rachel Goldstein, pre-K and CK Burns music teacher, and issue a contract for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
Second by School Board Member Johnston. Any discussion? Superintendent Ray, any follow-up from your memo? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote. School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. That brings us to item B, resignations. Again, in your packet was a memorandum on resignations from Superintendent Ray. School Board Member Truman?
I move we accept the resignation of Emily Thompson, social worker, effective at the end of the 22-2023 school year.
Second.
Motion's been seconded by School Board Member LaFortune. Superintendent Ray, any update other than what's in the memo? Any discussion? Roll call vote. School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. That brings us to item C, a school board meeting calendar.
Okay, in your packet is the proposed meeting calendar for next year. This is an opportunity for you guys to look at it, and I'll bring it back at a next meeting to finalize that for the upcoming year. Couple of things that I want to point out on that calendar that are that deviate from our normal day. Normal Wednesdays would be the month of February. I have moved that up a week because typically by the last day in January is when we're supposed to receive our state subsidies. And so I know that we'll be in the middle of budget pieces and people want to hear that information as quick as possible. And then the April 29th meeting, moving that to a Tuesday night because of our April vacation calendar starting the next day. And so we moved that ahead of night. So we'll bring this back. Please reach out to me with any comments on this and so that we can vote next meeting.
Thank you. Any questions for Superintendent Ray on the proposed calendar? No questions. Moving on. That brings us to item D, probationary teacher contracts. In the packet is a memorandum. Superintendent Ray.
The probationary contracts is the nomination to move 1 year probationary teachers to move to year 2 of probationary teachers, and then nomination for year 2 and year 3 probationary teachers to move on to continuing contract status. The law changed a couple of years ago to move back from a 3-year probationary to a 2-year. So the second set of people are a combined group that would all move to continuation, a continuing contract.
Thank you. Any questions for Superintendent Ray? School Board Member Gale?
It's just at a high level, can you give me just an overview on like what the criteria is in the evaluation from year 1 to year 2 for this list? Like what's the criteria here?
So people will go through the evaluation process as outlined in the contract, and the state process is that a beginning teacher is on a probationary contract for the first 2 years in any school department that they move to. Even if you've been in, let's say, the Saco School Department for 30 years, and then you move, your family moves, and you're now in Presque Isle, Maine, you would go on to a probationary contract, which would be the evaluations that we have for our teachers and our staff as outlined, and through that process. After that first year, the superintendent of schools must recommend to a board to go to a second-year probationary contract or to non-renew. That gives them their second year of evaluation. After the second year of that, superintendent of schools would say to a board, these are individuals who have satisfied requirements, we're happy with them, they're doing a great job, and they would move on to a continuing contract status and gain that professional certificate.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions? Superintendent Ray, do you require a vote on this?
Yes, the school committee needs to make a motion on this.
Thank you. School Board Member Truman?
I move we approve the nominations of the second-year teachers as listed in the memo and issue a continuing teacher contracts for the 23-24 school year.
Second.
Motion's been made by School Board Member Truman, second by School Board Member Johnston. Any discussion? Roll call vote. School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. School Board Member Truman?
I move we approve the nominations of the first-year teachers as listed in the memo and issue a year 2 probationary contracts for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
Motion's been made by School Board Member Truman, second by School Board Member LaFortune. Any discussion? No discussion, roll call vote. School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. That brings us to item E, an ESA preliminary allocations. Superintendent Ray?
Assistant Superintendent Parkhurst will come up to present this item.
Thank you. I think we gave a nod in an earlier school board superintendent's report to some of the changes, but I wanted to provide an opportunity for the board and the public to view the specific preliminary allocations, which are usually finalized in the end of May, early June, as we prepare our complete application. So we did see a substantial increase in our Title I allocation. That was due to the city size of Saco, which bumped Saco into a different statewide allocation procedure so that they moved from using our free and reduced lunch percentages to using the percentage of poverty for the city as a whole in terms of determining how much of the state pie of federal funds would be allocated to Saco, which left us in a better position, I think, especially with the change in the free and reduced lunch setup, there's certainly a different incentive, and so those poverty measures are a much more accurate representation of the funding that we would require. At present, we have one Title I school. We really have two schools that have qualified in the past, both Fairfield and Burns. The school qualification is still based on free and reduced lunch forms. We don't get to kind of use that same metric for our local allocations within schools. In the past, we have had CK Burns as what's called a targeted program, which means that we kind of have to nickel and dime every single student seen, test score for that student, percent of teacher time spent on that student, whereas Fairfield qualifies for a school-wide program, which means that you can assume that a rising tide rises all boats and that we can kind of spend that money on the whole school while ensuring that the needs of students that are struggling are met. We have an opportunity this year, after some discussions with the DOE, to apply for CK Burns to have a waiver on the targeted program and move them into school-wide. For the past 3 years, we have moved the CK Burns targeted funds to Fairfield school-wide because it's much easier and more beneficial to be able to spend those funds freely at one school. With the opportunity of increased funds, we believe in conversations with the state that CK Burns will be able to get a waiver for the targeted program and will then be able to qualify for school-wide, which will mean that we can split those funds between both schools, ensuring that the school that has the higher free and reduced lunch portion gets a greater portion of the funds, which we'll certainly be able to do, as in the past we've used all of those Title I funds at Fairfield. For our Title II allocations, we did see a bit of a decrease. There are a couple of different areas that Title II addresses. They're around teacher quality and professional development. Traditionally, we have used those for a classroom size reduction project, which is that idea that by shifting class sizes, we've done that at CK Burns in the 3rd grade, that's a transitional year for students and we want to keep those class sizes smaller. Title III is an allocation based on English language learners and immigrant students. We did see quite an increase in that funding and use those funds for a variety of measures to improve communication, improve access to education, and materials and other supports for our English language learners. Title IV is around student supports and academic achievements. These have some pretty strict spending requirements, as they have to be balanced across 3 different areas with different portions. And so we really need to look carefully at technology, well-rounded education, and safe school environments. Those are the 3 areas that we look at with Title IV and determining how we can best address those needs. In the coming months, we will continue to look at the way we've spent those funds in the past, brainstorm the best ways for us to maximize and leverage the use of those funds moving forward, and welcome public comment on the current allocations, on the past spending that's outlined in the memo, and we'll look forward to preparing that application in the beginning of the summer. One last thing to mention is that there is a private school allocation that's required by law. So based on the number of Saco students attending Saco schools in the town of Saco, we need to allocate certain percentages to those schools. And so below there you can see that of the funding, we do have quite a bit of Title II and Title IV going to TA for our 9-12 students, and then to Sweetser and Margaret Murphy, which also get a smaller portion based on that. Those schools can elect to follow the guidelines outlined in the title spending and be part of that application, or they can elect to not take those funds if it's onerous or prohibitive to try to spend those. We have had Sweetser and Margaret Murphy at different times decline some of those funds because it is a little bit tricky when your amount is a little bit smaller to then try to divide that pie further into different groups and then meet the reporting requirements. But we certainly work closely with those privates to make sure that they understand the spending limits, the timeframes, and the invoicing requirements so that they can access those funds. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Assistant Superintendent Parkhurst? Thank you very much. Oh, School Board Member Gale.
So then just, could you just go over the timeline one more time for the public involvement over the next couple months?
Yeah, so generally we have a group that will meet, and certainly if there's any members of the public that want to be part of that group, we welcome them to complete the form to go over how the school department proposes to use those funds. That generally occurs in June, and then by the end of July, we try to shore up that application to send in to the state, and then have an opportunity for revisions sometimes, or it can be immediately approved. So we look to have that submitted by August 1st.
So then the next time you come back, so there'll be a meeting in May for the school board, and then a meeting in June. I don't believe we have a meeting in July. So then that meeting in June, then will you present on kind of a more developed plan of where we're at with these funds, or
Yep.
suggested?
So as long as we have the final allocations by that June meeting, and even if we don't, we can give a ballpark from the preliminary allocations of how we intend to use those funds in preparation to complete that application.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That brings us to item F, school construction update. Superintendent Ray.
All right. School construction. So since the last meeting, Meg and myself and Patrick Fox and Oak Point and was it Emily from the city? Spent about 3 hours on a Zoom call with the Department of Transportation talking about light counts, every direction in the world traffic could come from and to get to a new school, and how many pass-through intersections they assume that cars will come through. It was a very interesting meeting, but one of those meetings that when you don't fully know or are ingrained in the topic and you don't do it every day, you walk out and you say, well, was that good or was that bad? And we were able to get guidance from Oak Point and from our traffic consultant that they actually felt that it went very good, and that the requests of more information, because obviously looking at turn lanes and queuing and those types of things are concerns that the DOT would have about any project. A lot of discussions about trying to anticipate where cars, one, not only will come from, but where will they go once they drop their kiddo off at school? Will you be, turning right and heading up Route 1 to continue on to Portland, or will you be going across the Industrial Park Road and jumping on the interstate, or how many cars will go south? So it was a very interesting meeting. We have kind of some homework assignments to bring back at the end of May. Is that correct, Meg? And then we will make other recommendations. Obviously, Patrick Fox will be a big part of that piece of the recommendations of the city and what they experience traffic-wise. And so through the traffic study, that's kind of that's the piece that's really between us and site approval, is the traffic study. And having the DOT kind of give us the go-ahead to move forward. And so that's the work now. There was definitely, the Department of Education understands our timeline and process that we have in the city to get on that November ballot, and they're doing everything in their power to help us stay on that piece, and considering how we may even present site and program at the same meeting. They're just being fantastic to work through, because they know that that process for municipalities is a little bit longer in months than it is in an RSU to get to that November election. So we're continuing to push hard. We continue to meet every single week to get updates around the building. You'll see here in the chamber tonight, there are a couple of big posters with floor plans and location proposed. Those are, or will be, at every single school. There will be a couple of spots within the community. We will be getting them to the Little League and softball field so that people will be able to start seeing kind of that vision of the schools as we hopefully move towards that November election.
Thank you. Any questions for Superintendent Ray? No questions. Moving on to item G of the agenda, and that's second reading of policies EBCC for bomb threat, ECAD for security camera system, ECAD-R security camera system administrative procedure, ECB pest management in school facilities and on school grounds, GBEB workplace bullying, GBEBB staff conduct with students, GBEC drug-free workplace, GBGE light work return to work, GBF work-related injuries, GBO family care leave, GCFA employee social media policy, and GCFB-R recruiting and hiring of administrative staff administrative procedure. Is there a motion to approve the policies? School Board Member Johnston?
Excuse me, I move we approve the second reading of policies EB, CC, ECAD, ECAD-R, ECB, GBEB, GBEBB, GBEC, GBGE, GBF, GBO, GCFA, and GCFB-R.
Second.
Motion's been made by School Board Member Johnston, second by School Board Member Truman. Any discussion on the policies? Second reading of policies.
I just wanted to mention, I mentioned it to some people, but KF we took that one off until our next meeting because we just had to make a few minor adjustments. So that'll be back on hopefully the next meeting.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the second reading of policies? No discussion, roll call vote. School Board Member Preble.
Yes.
School Board Member Richard.
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune.
Yes.
School Board Member Gale.
Yes.
School Board Member Truman.
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Brings us to item H, policies and procedures to strike, and that is KF-R, the use of school facilities, KF-A, school facility form, EB-R, safety program administrative procedure, EB-R1, safety and wellness program administrative procedure, EB-R2, Saco School Department Safety and Wellness Committee mission statement, EBAA-R, chemical hazards, chemical hygiene plan, EBAA-R2, employee chemical education and training record, EBAA-R3, record of trainings received, EBCC-R1, bomb threat procedures, and EBCC-R2, bomb threat checklist, and EAA-R, drug and alcohol testing of school bus drivers administrative procedure. Is there a motion on the policies to strike? School Board Member Johnston?
I move we strike policies KF-R, KF-A, EB-R, EB-R1, EB-R2, EBAA-R, EBAA-R2, EBAA-R3, EBCC-R1, and EBCC-R2.
Second.
Motion's been made by School Board Member Johnston, second by School Board Member Truman, on all the policies with the exception of EEA-R. Any discussion?
Just wanted to mention that this is similar to last time where we're taking off the procedures to open that up so that, because that's the administrative piece of it, we just need the policies in there. And there were some paper forms that were kind of redundant because a lot of that stuff is done electronically. It was just no need for them to be in there.
Thank you. School Board Member LaFortune?
So just a clarification on that. So KFR and KFA are being struck regardless of what happens to KF when it comes back.
Right, these are just, so KF will, when that comes back, will be our policy. KFR and KFA those are the forms that they used to require, but they have other things. There's just no need for us to have it in our policy manual. The administration should have it. Their forms should be readily available to administrators if they use paper forms, but I'm guessing that a lot of that stuff is all done electronically. And this way also, like if any procedures need to change for streamlining and all that stuff, their hands aren't really tied, you know what I mean? They don't have to, that's more of their corner, if you will, so.
Any further discussion?
Also, which one did you comment on about taking off, that with the exception of, Mr. Mayor?
School Board Member Johnston did not read into the record EEA-R. I did read it into the record, but it was not in School Board Member Johnston's motion. So we are not dealing with that item at this
Okay,
moment.
just making sure.
That is true. I did not read that particular one.
If you'd like to amend your motion, you can certainly amend it.
Okay. How would you suggest I do that, Mr. Mayor?
You can do a friendly amendment to just add in by reading that into the record, and then if
Okay.
School Board Member Truman seconds, it'll
So-
be considered friendly.
I would like to add to the list of policies that we will strike EEA, EAA-R. Yes, to the list of policies that I already motioned.
Thank you. School Board Member Truman, do you accept that as a second?
Yes.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Brings us to item 13 of the agenda. There's no other information this evening in the packet. There's no executive session under Section 14, and that brings us to item 15. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
School Board Member Truman, second by School Board Member Richard. Any discussion? Roll call to adjourn. School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0 to adjourn at 7:34. Have a great evening, everyone.